So 75% of consumers in Finland are actively telling businesses, please skip the human, just give me the bot.
Which is just a crazy statistic to hear, honestly.
Right. I mean, for decades, the human touch was like the untouchable golden rule of customer service. We were all trained to believe that a warm, empathetic voice on the phone was the absolute cornerstone of business.
Absolutely.
But today, according to a new analysis we're doing a deep dive on from AetherLink, they're a Dutch AI consulting firm, that human touch is rapidly becoming a liability.
Yeah, and that completely upends the traditional playbook for how we build customer relationships, you know? When 3 out of 4 people actually prefer an AI-assisted response over a real human agent, that signals a huge structural shift.
The shift in what consumers actually value, right?
Exactly. And if you're listening to this, especially if you're a European business leader or, a CTO or developer looking at AI adoption, this regional shift in Finland is an urgent global indicator. You really need to be paying attention to this blueprint.
So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack exactly how the city of Turku, Finland, is writing that blueprint for AI customer service across Europe.
Yeah.
We're going to look at how this tech is fundamentally restructuring the workforce, the actual bottom line math of deploying it, and how companies are legally surviving these massive regulatory shifts.
Because the urgency here really can't be overstated. I mean, by 2026, 72% of Finnish enterprises are projected to have fully adopted AI chatbots.
Wow, 72%.
Right. And you also have to factor in that the super strict EU AI Act came into full force back in June 2024. So Turku has effectively become this ultimate testing ground.
Because they had to balance the fast tech with the strict laws.
Exactly. It's actively proving that companies can balance massive, instant automation with incredibly strict regulatory compliance. And the enterprises that fail to internalize this blueprint are, well, they're simply going to be priced out of the market.
Well, let's start at the consumer level, because that 75% stat favoring AI over a human, it really demands an explanation.
It does. It sounds counterintuitive at first.
Right. But consumers are heavily prioritizing a few key things that humans just, well, we can't compete with. According to the AetherLink insights, they want 24/7 availability. They want sub-second response time.
Yes, speed is everything.
And they're demanding consistent, standardized information without human error or mood variations.
And that detail about mood variations is a massive psychological factor, actually. Think about a human support agent taking their 80th call of the day on a Friday afternoon.
They're going to be exhausted.
Right. Physically and emotionally drained. Their tone might be clipped. They might rush the caller or, just forget a minor protocol step. A chatbot, whether it's fielding its first inquiry or its millionth, maintains the exact same baseline of helpfulness.
Plus, you have to consider the linguistic complexity of a region like Turku. It's a major international innovation hub, which creates this daily multi-language necessity.
For sure.
You have business being conducted constantly in Finnish, Swedish, and English. For a human team to handle that seamlessly, you'd need a massive, highly specialized staff.
And an AI just processes and responds in all 3 languages instantly, right? Without the cognitive context switching delay that a human brain requires.
Exactly.
It really boils down to a fundamental efficiency-driven paradigm shift, especially for the tech-savvy demographics that make up a large portion of Turku's economy. The data actually shows that 80% of routine inquiries in Finland are already being handled autonomously by AI.
80%, that's wild.
Yeah. Consumers just don't view a 5-minute wait on hold as a minor inconvenience anymore. They view it as a systemic failure on the part of business.
To me, this behavioral shift feels exactly like the transition from bank tellers to ATMs.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Like if you think back to when you had to wait in a velvet roped line inside a bank for 20 minutes just to deposit a check, it was incredibly inefficient.
It was the worst.
Right. You finally get to the front, the human teller smiles, they ask about your weekend, they give you that vaunted human touch. But in reality, you just wanted your cash so you could get on with your day.
You didn't want a friend, you wanted a transaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you walk up to an ATM, it doesn't smile, it doesn't ask about your kids, but it dispenses your money in 10 seconds.
Because the human touch in transactional environments has basically become a bottleneck. The data backs up your ATM theory perfectly.
Does it?
Yeah. The speed over sentiment paradigm dictates that for the vast majority of interactions, speed and accuracy actually are the new empathy. Like, respecting a customer's time is the highest form of customer service you can offer.
That makes total sense.
Sí, pues.
But if consumers are actively demanding sub-second response times, businesses are forced to deliver them.
Wow.
And the assumption is usually that faster, better service requires a massive capital investment.
Right, that's the old way of thinking.
But the hard math of automation and labor tells a completely different story here. The AetherLink article details a staggering 68% operational cost reduction for companies making this transition.
68%. I mean, it completely transforms a company's profit and loss statement.
It's a massive number.
It is. The specific math outlined in the source looks at a mid-market Turku firm operating with 20 customer support staff. By deploying an enterprise-grade AI chatbot, that single firm saves between 200,000 and 350,000 euros annually.
Just on payroll and operational costs alone.
Exactly. And to give you a broader regional benchmark, Klarna, the massive Swedish fintech company, they achieved an 82% reduction in customer service costs through their AI deployment.
82%. That is unreal. Though I imagine if you're a 10-person startup listening to this, you might assume you can't afford the massive enterprise build-out that a giant like Klarna utilizes.
You'd think so, but the sources indicate this isn't restricted to corporate giants at all.
Really? How are smaller businesses doing it?
Small businesses can tap into cloud-based platforms. Like AetherLink has AetherBot, which uses a usage-based pricing model. So by simply paying per resolution rather than carrying fixed payroll costs, small businesses are still realizing a 40 to 50% savings.
So that democratization of the technology is what's really driving that 72% adoption projection we talked about.
Exactly. When a small business can essentially rent an enterprise-grade AI on a per-interaction basis, the financial barrier to entry drops to practically zero.
My immediate assumption, though, when hearing about a 68% cut in payroll or a massive shift to usage-based bot pricing, is that businesses are simply gutting their departments.
Right, the mass layoff fear.
Yeah. Doesn't firing everyone carry a massive risk of losing your complex, creative problem-solving abilities? It kind of sounds like you're just handing the keys over to a machine that can't think critically.
Well, the reality of the data presents a very different outcome, actually. Introducing another critical metric from AetherLink clarifies this: businesses are seeing a 45% reduction in human escalations.
Wait, meaning what exactly?
Meaning the AI isn't just acting as a wall to deflect calls, it is actually resolving the foundational Tier 1 grunt work.
Oh, like the password resets, the basic scheduling,
Yeah.
routine order tracking, that kind of stuff.
Precisely. When the AI filters out those repetitive tasks, the human employees are not uniformly fired, they're repurposed.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, they're suddenly freed up to handle high-value tasks, like complex contract negotiation, gathering nuanced product feedback, and actually consulting with the client to build long-term relationships.
Which is much better work anyway.
Exactly. In a tight Nordic labor market where talent is highly competitive, forcing your human staff to answer the same basic question 50 times a day leads to massive burnout and high turnover.
So by removing that repetitive strain, this human-AI collaboration model cures burnout and massively boosts employee retention.
Exactly. You're making their jobs better.
Look, paper math and cost-saving theories are easy to digest, but I'm always a bit skeptical of how this holds up in a messy, unpredictable industry.
Fair enough.
Like, if a massive cargo ship is delayed by a winter storm in the Baltic Sea, a chatbot can't just offer a generic apology to a client. It has to actually solve the complex supply chain ripple effect, right?
Right, and the Turku logistics case study in the AetherLink report addresses that exact B2B environment. This was a logistics leader managing Nordic port operations and supply chain coordination.
Okay, so a highly complex physical business.
Very. Before integrating AI, they employed 35 representatives who were basically drowning in 50,000 monthly inquiries. Their average resolution time, like the time it took to actually solve a complex client problem, was 8 hours.
8 hours, wow.
Mm.
But I guess that makes sense when you consider the manual labor involved.
Oh, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, before AI, a logistics rep had to manually read an email from a client, log into 3 different carrier portals, call a port authority, verify labor laws regarding truck driver hours, and then manually type out a response. Taking 8 hours to untangle that web is almost expected.
Right. So they partnered with AetherLink's development arm, AetherDV, to deploy a specialized AetherBot. And the key to their success was the integration mechanism. And AI is really only as capable as the data systems it can physically reach.
So they didn't just put a glorified FAQ widget on their website.
No, not at all.
The bot was plugged directly into their existing logistics management systems
Right.
and trained on 5 years of historical support tickets.
Exactly. And crucially, it was fed strict regulatory compliance frameworks, such as the rules from the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, alongside complex EU labor regulations.
That is seriously impressive.
Furthermore, it was deeply integrated with shipping status APIs. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, an API or application programming interface essentially allows two pieces of software to talk directly to each other. Because of those APIs, the bot can literally query a cargo ship's GPS database in real time. It pulls exact coordinates and arrival estimates without a human ever having to click a button or make a phone call.
So the physical mechanism of solving the problem changes entirely.
Completely.
Instead of an 8-hour manual investigation, the EtherBot instantly parses the intent of an incoming client email. It pings the carrier API in milliseconds to find the delayed ship.
Yep.
Then it cross-references the new arrival time against the International Maritime Organization regulations for port labor shifts, and it automatically emails the client back with a legally compliant, rerouted trucking schedule.
And that is how their 8-hour resolution time dropped to just 9 minutes.
9 minutes. That's an 82% improvement in resolution speed for highly complex logistical problems.
It's incredible. And concurrently, their headcount for that specific department was safely reduced from 35 to 12.
Which yields that 66% cost cut.
Exactly. While their customer satisfaction score jumped from 68% up to 91%.
You know, the most impressive element of that case study isn't just the speed. To me, it's the scalability.
Oh, the scalability is huge.
Because they achieved those numbers while handling a 25% increase in inquiry volume. The business scaled up to 62,500 inquiries a month, and the system just absorbed the spike instantly.
Can break a sweat.
Right. If a human-driven team experiences a sudden 25% surge in demand due to a weather event, the system breaks down. Wait times explode, clients hemorrhage money.
Yep.
But an AI-driven system scales its processing power infinitely and instantly, creating a massive competitive moat for early adopters.
It really does. But we do need to talk about the risks, because absorbing massive data spikes and autonomously pulling GPS APIs across borders sounds incredibly powerful, but under Europe's notoriously strict tech laws, it sounds like a massive liability.
Yeah, let's examine the regulatory elephant in the room navigating the EU AI Act.
This represents the single largest hurdle for European CTOs and developers today. The EU AI Act became fully enforceable in June 2024, and the punitive stakes are, frankly, existential.
How bad are the fines?
Non-compliance can trigger fines of up to 30 million euros, or 6% of a company's global turnover for high-risk violations.
30 million euros.
Right.
Wow. So on a technical level, I imagine that means you can't just buy an off-the-shelf generative bot, plug it into your sensitive customer data, and just hope for the best.
Absolutely not.
You have to literally engineer the legal compliance into the code before you even train the model.
Yeah.
Utilizing something like an AI-led architecture.
Right, and that's the exact methodology behind AetherLink's Iterative frameworks. Historically, the software development cycle involved building a tool, getting it to function, and then handing it over to the legal department to figure out if it was compliant.
But backwards, right?
Yeah, totally. Retrofitting a neural network to comply with the EU AI Act after it has already ingested unverified data is incredibly expensive. And often, it's technically impossible without completely destroying the model's accuracy.
So building compliance into the design from day one has to require a massive shift in how developers treat data provenance.
It does. It begins before a single line of code is written. Developers must mathematically classify the risk levels of the AI system according to the Act's specific definitions.
Okay.
They must meticulously document the provenance of all training data sources so they can explicitly prove where the AI learned its behaviors. And they have to actively engineer bias mitigation strategies into the algorithms.
Bias mitigation, meaning from a technical standpoint, you have to prove your algorithms aren't unfairly prioritizing certain geographic regions or demographics when making autonomous decisions.
Yes, the EU AI Act demands absolute transparency, which requires engineering immutable audit trails and explainability features.
Explainability meaning what?
Well, if an AI system grants shipping clearance or processes sensitive customer data, a regulator has the authority to audit your business and ask, how did the bot arrive at the specific conclusion?
Meaning you can't just say, Oh, well, the algorithm figured it out.
Exactly. You cannot have a black box system.
Oh,
If your neural network is a black box that cannot be audited, you are liable for that 30 million euro fine.
that's terrifying.
It is. But using an AI lead architecture allows your development team to map specific neural weights or decision trees back to verified, legally sound data sources. You simply print out the immutable audit trail and show the regulator the exact mathematical pathway the bot took to reach its decision.
Which essentially turns a massive regulatory burden into a sharp competitive advantage, really.
It's exact.
I mean, in privacy-conscious Nordic markets, being able to mathematically prove that your AI is 100% ethically deployed, unbiased, and legally compliant, that grants you unrestricted market access across all EU jurisdictions while building massive consumer trust.
Right, it creates a trusted ecosystem where consumers actually feel safe interacting with your automated systems, which just reinforces that 75% preference rate we discussed at the very beginning.
We have covered an incredibly dense amount of ground today. From the shifting preferences of Finnish consumers and the speed over sentiment paradigm to the intricate API mechanics of dropping an 8-hour resolution time to just 9 minutes.
And the engineering reality of the EU AI Act.
Right. So let's distill all of this source material down for our listeners. For me, my number one takeaway is the sheer speed of the return on investment.
Oh, the ROI timeline is wild.
It's shockingly fast. When you look at the timeline mapped out in the AetherLink data, months 1 through 3 are dedicated solely to implementation, system integration, and training the bot on your historical data.
Getting it up to speed.
Exactly. Then, by months 4 through 6, your business hits a 40 to 50% cost reduction plateau, and your customer satisfaction scores improve by up to 25%.
In just half a year.
Right. And by the time you reach months 7 through 12, you're realizing the full 68% cost reduction while also seeing a 10 to 20% revenue uplift from better conversion rates.
It's game-changing.
The fact that a business can implement an enterprise-grade AI and fundamentally alter its profit margins in just 4 months makes this an operational imperative rather than just some luxury R&D project. What about you?
My number one takeaway is the profound transformation of human capital. By mathematically dropping human escalations by 45%, businesses are doing far more than just saving money on the balance sheet.
They're changing the nature of work.
Exactly. They are actively rescuing their human workforce from the psychological toll of repetitive data entry. They're taking people who were previously acting as just like human routers, answering the exact same basic questions every single day and repurposing them for strategic growth, deep problem solving, and actual relationship building.
It's just a win all around.
It really is. It operates as a win for the financial health of the company, a massive win for the customer's time, and a critical upgrade to the daily reality of the employee.
Think back to the velvet rope bank line versus the ATM metaphor we explored earlier. We are standing at a precipice where consumer patience has permanently shifted, and the technology has evolved to meet that new baseline.
There was no going back.
No. So leave you with this thought to mull over. If a competitor in your specific sector can now accurately parse an email, query an API, check international labor laws, and resolve a complex multi-language inquiry in 9 minutes for a fraction of the cost.
While your human team takes 8 hours to accomplish the exact same task.
Exactly. How many months do you really have before you simply cease to be competitive in the European market? The 72% adoption rate projected for 2026 is not a trend you can wait out. It is a countdown.
Well said.
For more AI insights, visit etherlink.ai.